Okay, so tonight our pre-training is going to focus on Guide by Your Side policy and procedure. And like I mentioned, it's not exactly an exciting call, but we need to just touch on the main highlights of the policy and procedure with you. If you want to view the entire copy, it is in our Trello group. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to highlight is that currently we are a program of Hands and Voices, which is a product of a national organization and with local chapters. So we are run under the Illinois chapter of Hands and Voices. We partner with our Illinois EDI program, our Early Hearing Detection and Intervention program, in a way where the program that is run through, the EDI program that's run through DSCC, provides us with a contract, which is our primary source of funding for the Guide by Your Side program. When we first began, that's not how it was. We we had our chapter involved, we had our EDI program through DSCC involved, and we had Choices for Parents involved. And Choices for Parents was our fiscal agent through the Chicago Hearing Society and Annexter. And so recently, though, we took our fiscal responsibility back, and we're running that through our chapter. All right, so just going a little bit over the guides here. We match our families with guides, particularly and primarily in the region that that family resides. If there is a more appropriate match, maybe because of language or a special need for that family, then they might be matched outside of the region. The idea behind the guide is to provide one-on-one support with the family, with one meeting in person if possible, and then any contacts can be made either through the phone, internet, messaging, Skype, whatever works for that family, and the guide is perfectly fine. We do ask that the guide keep in touch with the family once a month. This is what is needed in order for the family's file to remain open and active. If that communication is not happening once a month, then we would have to look at closing that family's file. So if after 3 consecutive months, if there's been no active contact from that family, you've tried and you're not getting a response back, then what we would do is we would probably go ahead and close that family's file. We do, I make it a point to share with the family when they enroll that monthly contact has to be made, even if it's just a quick text to say that they're doing okay. You can only make contact with the family within your scope of the role of a guide. If you do any additional work with the family, you know, we've had families ask if the guide's older kids can babysit and different things like that. Then obviously that's not working as a guide with that family. We've had families ask if the guide can attend an IEP on behalf of that family. Again, not under the role of the guide. And you cannot say that you're a Guide by Your Side guide during that meeting as well. And the reason being is if something goes bad at that meeting, we don't want that to be seen as how a reflection of our organization. So we want to really give the tools to the family that they need and empower them so that they can do that meeting and future meetings on their own. So they don't always need that security blanket. And then also making sure that when you do follow up with family, when you do provide resources, that you do it in an unbiased manner. And one of the things that I want to stress is that when you give families information, for instance, if they're asking about a cochlear implant, well, you're not going to just provide them a cochlear implant information for advanced bionics. You would provide cochlear implant information on at least 3 resources, which we only have 3 companies, so that would limit you. But you would provide it from all the organizations or all the companies. And same thing if they're asking for a referral for an ENT. You wouldn't just give them one name and number. You would give them 2 to 3 at least, and then let the family make the decision that works for them. Because if you're just giving one, we don't want that, again, to seem as biased. Okay. Of course, we have non-discrimination statements and policies in place. And with that, if there's ever anything that you're unhappy with, you would bring it to my attention. And then if it was anything with me, you not wanting to bring that to my attention, then the next step would be bringing it to the Illinois Hands and Voices president, which currently is Andrea Marwa. Okay, and then again, you can go through the other pieces on your own time. If there is a bit to cover, and I want to make sure we have enough time. There have been opportunities where families feel indebted for the services that they've received, and with that being said, a family might want to provide a gift or something to the guide to thank them. And if that is the case, then you can ask them if they want to make a donation to our program or to Hands and Voices in a way of showing their appreciation. And they can either go directly to the Hands and Voices website and make that donation, or they could, you know, contact me and we could help set that up. When you're visiting a family or professional, business casual is our dress policy, and that is also for our in-person trainings. And so this is not, you know, obviously not your 3-piece suits, it's nicer suits and dresses and stuff, but something a little less formal but still respectable and reasonable. So no short shorts, no holes in the jeans. Yes, you can wear dark colored jeans that are nicely kept. You know, none of the stringy bottoms on the bottoms of the jeans or anything like that, but keeping yourself looking professional. And in the policy procedure, after that part here is two sections here that have guidelines for the dress. Again, denim's good if there's nothing wrong with it. T-shirts are fine, again, as long as it's appropriate. Capri pants, as long as they look like you're not wearing yoga pants and so forth. One thing I want to point out, and we discussed this a little bit in our last training, is that if you're visiting with a family in person or heading into a meeting, again, just letting your family know where you're at so they won't continue to look for you and bother you on your phone. And then just make sure that you either turn your phone off or to vibrate so that it won't be disruptive in that session or that opportunity that you have. So typically during the month of June is when we do our annual review. Because we have our team training this month, I'm not sure if it will be happening in June or July. And yes, because you just came on board, we will still have you participate in some form of the review. And the way it's set up now, it's a form developed by headquarters, and the guide pretty much fills it all out and provides feedback and how they're doing and how the program is doing. And then there's a section for me to offer comments as well. So that will be coming down the pike within the next month or so. When you enter a home of a family, again, just be respectful of that family's home and their religious and cultural beliefs. Do not drink alcohol or smoke inside the family's home, even if they say it's okay. It's not appropriate. Again, if you are a smoker, that is fine. Just make sure that you are finished before you reach the home and that you don't have a powerful smell because sometimes people are really allergic to that, and that might be a bad way to start that relationship. We talked about this too before, asking them where to park before you arrive to the home, asking them if they'd like your shoes removed and so forth, and then being prepared to remove your shoes just in case. And if there's ever a time where you feel like it's unsafe to visit a home and, before you even go in, then call me and we can work out something to say to the family without saying, I don't feel safe. It hasn't happened, but we can be prepared for when it does. And then again, we are mandatory reporters, so if you do ever feel like you are in a situation where you think there's abuse or neglect, we can take care of that. And, the first step is just reporting it and then letting those folks make the decision of whether or not that's the case, okay? So when you make calls with families, make sure you, again, turn off the television, decrease all background noise, try not to use the speakerphone. If they're with you and your family's there, again, making sure you're in an area away from your family. Make sure you're also prepared to take notes and jot down any requests they might have. Again, we discussed this last time, star 67 is a way you can block your number if you choose to, or you can sign up for a personal Google number and just use that for the business if that's what you would like. And then emails. Sometimes people utilize wallpapers within an email, or their signature has like a joke or maybe a quote from the Bible. For work purposes, that would be asked not to happen. So just keep it professional. And again, the email signature, there's specifics that we shared last time. We talked about Facebook relationships with families. While you're working them, we encourage you not to be friends with them. However, when you are done working with the family, you can go ahead and be a friend with them on Facebook. And we discussed that, for a couple different reasons, is that if you were supposed to be getting back with the family and instead they saw you on Facebook and out and about or playing Facebook games and posting your scores and you haven't gotten back with them on the items that they've requested, they might feel like they're not as important to you. And so let's just avoid that situation. Make sure, again, that your emails are easy to read, font, so try to stay away from cursive and so forth. For your name or whatever, that's fine, but for the entire email, there are people that can't read that, or maybe their eyesight's bad and it's just hard to read something that is not a standard script. Again, remembering that there's a suggested email signature, and then if you are going out of town, to make sure you set up your vacation reply. So all of your paperwork and communication with the family should be kept confidential. You should not have that out and about in your home, on the breakfast table. So we do supply each one of you with a lockbox where you can store those papers in. And so you will be receiving that at the in-person training in a couple weeks here. Again, twice a month you turn in timesheets. If you don't have time to turn in twice a month, once a month is fine. You are paid $15 an hour for working with the family, and then remember the 15 minutes per family a month for the miscellaneous paperwork and time that you spend with texting and so forth. If you're going to visit a family in person, and remember it's a minute per mile, so say it was a 30-mile round trip, so that would be 30 additional minutes that you would add on to that time of the family onto your timesheet. If you have additional costs, such as tolls or parking or whatnot, those also need to be submitted with your timesheet within 5 days from the day that it happened. And there's a spot on the timesheet to do so, and then you would just scan the receipt and send that in. If it's tolls and it's like through your iPass, then you can look up your iPass account and print off the statement that shows the tolls on those days, and then send that in with your timesheet, and then we would use that for reimbursing you. So referring a family. A guide cannot make contact with the family and start working with them before I talk to them. So if you find a family that is interested, you would have them contact me or would ask them if it's okay to give me their information, and then I would work with them. I would do the intake and then match them up with the appropriate guide. So it always comes to me first. Again, outreach, working with professionals. The purpose of these outreach contacts is for you to introduce yourself to those professionals and share with them what the program is all about. Obviously, the more contacts that you make, more referrals are made to the program, and then the more families that you would be able to interact with, okay? And we do have about 30 outreaches a year planned, and if that's something that you're interested in, then you would talk with the person handling the outreach management, and this year that would be Kristen. So she has a spreadsheet of places that we've made contact with or that we know we will be making contact with over the next year, and then she can see what's left and work with you to get that outreach done. And certainly if there are suggestions that you have, you would talk with us about that, and we'd see if that's already on our list or just recently done, and if not, then if that makes sense to reach out to those folks. Again, just reiterating some of the things from our prior training. Once a family is referred to a guide, we tell that family that the guide will make contact with them within the next 24 to 48 hours, and then you would go ahead and make that contact. I typically encourage you to text them first so that they can put your phone number with you and kind of make that link. And then you guys can go ahead and set up the time to talk, and at that time make that final connection. When you do meet and talk with family, make sure that you listen to what their needs are, share resources with them, answer any questions that they might have, and then again, completing that progress note. And then when you are done working with that family, in about 6 months' time is typically what we see, you would let me know that the family's ready to exit the program. You would send me an email, and in the subject line it would say close file or close family. And then in the email you would have the name and the information of who I need to close. And then from there on we send them a satisfaction survey, and then if that is returned, any comments from that family would be shared with the guide. Again, progress notes need to be filled out for each quarter and then turned in the beginning of the following quarter. Whether that file is open or closed, they always get their progress notes turned in. So obviously if you close the family this quarter, you wouldn't need to report on them after that final progress note was turned in. Again, keeping contact with the family at least once a month. If the family does need more time than that or wants to speak to you more often than that, that is fine, but we want you to at least touch base with them once a month. So while interacting families, it's important that we don't address religion or press our religious beliefs onto the family. So trying to watch what you say, and I know sometimes it can be so easy to say simple things like, oh my God, or oh, such a blessing, or bless you, and if those things that we say, we mean them in a positive and enlightening way, some people might not take it that way. And I know that they might be, I'm searching for the word, and I cannot find it. Sorry, guys. But they mean no harm. They mean we're not pushing the family to join our church or anything. It's better to try to watch and make sure that that isn't even questioned. Again, making sure that you're not forcing any particular businesses on them. Again, with the implant companies especially, a lot of times families will be like, well, which one did you choose? Or which one do you see more families use? And that's not our role. We can easily put them in contact with leaders from each of the cochlear implant contact companies, and then they can have those conversations with them and draw their conclusions for them, just like we drew our conclusions for our own children on the amplification devices that we chose. Same thing with schools and such. Really, that's our personal journey. That was our belief, and we are not going to push those on to the family. And I touched on this earlier. When you're sharing resources with families, again, making sure to give them at least 3 choices and letting them make the choice that is appropriate for them. So again, whether that's neighborhood resources, specific companies or organizations, books, again, just trying to give them as much of a variety and letting them see what fits for them. So again, we talked about this, phone contact within 48 hours, introducing yourself as the guide, keeping it simple, giving them a quick overview of the program. Again, I'm here to listen to what you need and to help you with resources. You can ask me whatever you would like about my personal journey if you want to, but this relationship is not about me, it's about you, and I'm here to help you, okay? Really trying to share with them. And don't hesitate to tell them, listen, I need to be in contact with you once a month. And if you need to talk with me sooner than that, you can contact me at any time. Just let me know. But I have to, in my role, contact you once a month. So if you do set up an appointment in person, make sure that you confirm those appointments. Don't just say, oh, tomorrow's my appointment with Susie, I can't wait, and then show up at Susie's house the next day and Susie's forgotten all about it, okay? So again, a day or 2 before that appointment, just confirming with them that you're going to be out there and so forth, especially if it's going to take you some time to get there. They might not realize the distance that you might be traveling. So even if if it is a distance, just saying, you know what, Susie, I'm going to be out on Tuesday, and I'll be leaving the house around noon. I know that we were going to meet up around 2, but I just want to make sure I have enough time with traffic and everything else. So if I got there a little bit early, would that be okay? Because then you don't want Susie calling you at noon saying, oh, you know what, I can't make it today, or at 12:30, and thinking that you're already still at home and that she's had enough time. So, be honest with them in that sense. And don't rely just on email. Not every family may utilize email like you do or like I do. And so what if their phone, fell in the sink and their phone's not working, and that's how they access email. So don't solely rely on that. Make sure you utilize all the resources available with you. So again, can't stress enough, the best communication strategy with a family is to listen to them. Let them lead the discussion. Ask questions that are not dead-end questions. Ask open-ended questions such as, you know, last time we talked, you were going to go and look up some sign language videos at the library. How did that go? Or, you know, last time we talked, you were looking at the differences between these two schools. What do you think? Instead of saying, did you like that school? Where it might be a little bit more of a flat answer. Our biggest job is really to empower these parents so they can be more independent and not be hesitant to take a stand and to be an advocate for their family and to handle those future meetings on their own. Be confident in what you say, but if you don't know the answer, don't make one up. Make sure that you say, hey, I'm not sure, you know, what that is. I've never heard of that. Or, you know, I don't have experience in cochlear implants because my family didn't have that journey, but let me talk to some people on our team and get some resources together for you that we can, you know, share next time we meet up. Do not push your beliefs or values on the family. Do not bring your children or visitors unless that's been something that's been discussed with them and me. Try not to over-socialize, I guess. I know it might be awkward, but if you spend a good portion of the meeting just talking about the weather, then that might hinder really getting down to some of the nitty-gritty with the family. Don't exclude other family members. If dad's there, if grandma's there, ask them, ask mom or whoever if they would like to be part of the talk as well. And don't expect perfection from the parents, okay? Let's face it, we don't always have it together. Sometimes we have a bad day. And the biggest thing I think I always share is they don't know what they don't know, all right? So maybe they don't know how to put in the hearing aid mold as well as maybe you do. So, and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that kid's hearing aid's squealing, and you know, why haven't they done something? And not that I would necessarily call them out and say, you know, did you know your kid's hearing aid squealing? But there is another way that you can approach that by saying something to the fact of maybe asking when the last time an ear mold was made, or asking if, you know, how the hearing aids are going and seeing if she mentions it, and then go from there. If parents don't know that in the first year with a child with hearing aids that they're probably going to be changing the molds every month, then how do they know to advocate for their child to do that? So ongoing training is our team trainings that happen every month. We do ask that you participate in 80% of those. That is actually a headquarters rule, and this is scored on your yearly review. So if you fall below that 80%, then I will suspend matching you with families until you are caught up. And in some instances, I might have to rematch those families with somebody else if the situation is extreme. If you attend the training live, then you are paid 1 hour for your time. If you access the recording, then that time is not paid, but you do need to complete that in order to stay above that 80% rate. If you think of any specific topics that you would like to learn more about, please feel free to contact me with your suggestions. I would love to hear about them. We've done 7 years of trainings now with about 9 trainings a year, so I'm always looking for new topics. if you're having an issue with one of your families, what you would do is you would contact me. Let's just face it, we can't all be friends, and sometimes we don't click, and that's okay. I've had guys tell me that they felt like there was some tension or that it wasn't quite working out, and I've had families contact me and say that too. And so if there's ever a time where I have to call you and say, you know what, Mary, you know, it's just not happening with Mary. She just feels like you're not at the same point in your journey. And I have to rematch Mary up with Susie. So, you know, it happens. It's maybe happened a half dozen times, so it doesn't happen often, but it's okay. I don't fire you or whatever unless something extreme happens, but that might be a situation that a bridge we might have to cross in the future, and if it does happen, it will all be all right. Again, if you need help finding resources for a family, please reach out to our team through the Yahoo group, through looking at resources on Trello. If you find resources and want to start a board in Trello, please feel free to do so. That is the whole reason why it's there. We have a wide variety of knowledge on our team, from parents with younger kids to older kids to unilateral loss, bilateral loss, implants, hearing aids, BAHAs, all kinds of different communication strategies, all kinds of different schooling placements. So please don't hesitate to reach out to the team. And also, just because you're a guide doesn't mean that we don't need support from time to time too. Our family is growing and changing, and our situations change over the time. And so if you feel like, you know, something's not quite right in your neck of the woods, don't hesitate to reach out to somebody and talk to them. Just because you're a guide doesn't mean that you might not need a guide at some point, even though it might not be, you know, a long-term commitment. That's what we're here. We're here to support each other as well. So the last two, I believe, here are just the job descriptions of what my role, the program coordinator, is and what that does, and then what the role of the parent guide is and what you would do. And those were also on the applications that you guys have received. So I'm sure you had seen this at some point. And again, you can see that in the policy and procedure on the Trello group too. So before we go to post-test, are there any questions that you guys have? Anything you want me to go back and review?
Carrie?
Yes.
Remind me what you said about the 15 minutes, like for you to text a client or whatever to check with them, to check on them or however. How is that billed, and how do we do that on our timesheet?
Right.
What was that?
15 minutes per month per family that you work with, and what guides typically do is they'll just date it on their timesheet for the last day of the month, okay, and that family's last name and 15 minutes, and that kind of encompasses that extra paperwork, the okay, texting, messaging that you might be doing with the family throughout that month that really don't add up to 15 minutes in one shot. It might be, you know, a 2-minute text back and forth, or, you know, 5 minutes of paperwork, but when that all adds up, that's why we count it as 15 minutes per family per month.
Okay, perfect.
Anything else? All right, I am going to go ahead and do the post-test here, and just chat me your answers, and we'll go from there. All right, so number one, the Illinois Guide by Your Side program was started by Illinois in Illinois by 6 organizations. True or false? Question 2. You can communicate with your family by A, phone, B, email, C, instant message, D, Skype, E, in person, or F, all of the above. Question 3. Guides must have bi-monthly contact with their families in order for their files to remain open and active. True or false? You ladies are quick to the draw tonight. All right. Question 4. Progress notes should be turned in A, as soon as they are written, B, at the start of each new quarter, or C, at the end of the month. Question 5. If your computer in which you store GBYS information breaks, you should A, discard the computer and get a new one as soon as possible, B, purge the computer of any information before discarding, C, move all your files to another family's computer, or D, all of the above. And number 6, as a guide, you can enroll a family to start meeting with you at any time. True or false? All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.